More on this is CNN senior political analyst and anchor John Avalon and CNN opinion contributor Sophia Nelson. So, John, Joe Manchin getting into this race, maybe, maybe not. What it does what?
Well, look, I mean, it is one of the many X factors that could utterly change the outcome of the race. I think take Manchin at his word. His intention is not to be a spoiler that reelects Donald Trump. And that's the X factor with an unprecedented number of independent candidates running. You don't know how that ball's going to bounce in any number of the different swing states. I think he sees himself, he's trying to be the net beneath the election. If a bunch of X factors occur through court or health scares, that there's a centrist alternative. I just think that this is no ordinary time.
Yes.
Yes, polarization is a major problem in our politics. So is hyperpartisanship. But if these independent third-party candidates are opening the door to potentially electing Donald Trump, who's running on an autocratic platform, that's a step too far at the wrong time.
And Sophia, reading through Isaac's reporting this morning and yesterday, I was kind of sitting there wondering, is this more than a thorn in the side of President Biden and his campaign? It's just something that I'm kind of wondering with just having this kind of lingering out there, even though he says he doesn't want to be a spoiler, but kind of having this when he says that kind of he's kind of set the agenda. He is everything behind what President Biden's agenda.
Listen, Kate, I think what Dean Phillips is doing and what Joe Manchin and others in this third party context are doing is dangerous. It's dangerous to democracy in this moment because, as John correctly says, Trump is running on a very openly hostile autocratic platform. And President Biden's going to need to keep a coalition together. This is not the time to be breaking off and splintering off. Even, say, 4%, 5% or more of the vote could tip the election in a different direction than I think the majority of the country wants to go. So I do think it's more than a thorn in his flesh. I think it's a real problem if they follow through on these third-party candidacies.
Let's talk about some of the policy that has become central in the primary and will be in the general, which is border policy. You've got a deal that is, they say the deal is done. They need to write the text. Democrats, Republicans coming together in the Senate to try to work out this border deal that's linked to Ukraine funding. Some Republicans now balking in the Senate. The House Republicans definitely balking. And this is after Donald Trump started speaking up and speaking out against it. I mean, some of the litany of what he said was last week, a border deal now would be another gift to the radical left, maybe suggesting what his intentions are here and saying no deal right now. I want to play what Nikki Haley said this morning about the border deal in the works when she was on CNBC. Watch this.
Secure that border. I don't care what political chances it does, do the right thing. This is not the time to sit there and wait until November when you've got people coming through.
That's not what Donald Trump said. What do you think of that, John?
I think she's right. I mean, look, if you don't think something's a crisis, then there's urgency to solve it. You got the Senate operating like it actually should, right? Reasoning together, Democrats and Republicans finding the middle 60 votes to get something done. And of course, Ukraine and Israel aid also tied to this. What Donald Trump is doing is trying to destroy a deal because he doesn't want bipartisanship and Joe Biden to get credit for solving a problem. That is so bizarre world cynical, and yet it's what we've come to expect. He's putting himself before the country. It's not even party before the country. It's himself, then party, then country. And so the cynicism of this, the fact he's playing his supporters who care about the border for fools by saying he'd rather have it fester for a year so he could get the political benefit. That's exactly what's wrong in our politics. And the people who are working together to try to solve problems across party lines are what could be right in our politics. Message to Washington, do your job. Do your job.
Is it, Sophia, do you see, if we're talking pure politics in the presidential, is it a zero-sum gain if they reach a deal that Democrats would get the credit, Joe Biden would get the gain, and not Republicans? Am I being Pollyanna? Because that is rare if I am. If they could all get credit for doing something here?
Yeah, candidly, I think it depends on what network you're watching. And I'm being serious about this because, for example, if you have a news outlet that's going to say no matter what, that this was not a bipartisan deal, that it is a bad deal and that it isn't good for the border in the country, and that's just drummed in day and day and day, that's one perspective. If, however, we're truth tellers and we know that the Senate is so tight that nothing can get done without bipartisanship, and that there has to be a deal where the president agrees to sign it. It has to be passed by both chambers of the Congress. The House seems to be obstructionist here, and that's going to be the real challenge. The Senate and the president are going to work together. So is it a zero-sum game? No, because the reality is nothing gets done in this Washington, D.C. without bipartisanship because the margins are too tight. But if people don't understand that, then they buy into the Trump crazy. And you saw what Oklahoma did, right, to Senator Langford. The Republican Party there slapped him with the censure resolution because he didn't bow down to Trump, and he wants to get a border deal. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah. Langford is, as conservative as they come, and he is also working really hard.
Very.
And has gotten a lot of credit for working really hard to get something done, get it across the line, which would be good for everyone when you're staring at what's going on at the border. It's good to see you both. Thank you so much. John.